Hi there. Today I'm here to talk about film photography. This is something I started this year. I mainly shoot digital, but I have always wanted to try film. Now I have already shot quite a few rolls of film, so I think I have enough experience to form some opinions on it. And if you are considering to try it out, I can hopefully provide you some thoughts. I'll break it down into 3 parts: the shooting experience, the learning effectiveness, and the film aesthetics. But before I start, keep in mind that these are all just my opinions. You don't have to agree with everything I said. I'm only doing this video to encourage you to think more. So if you have other opinions, feel free to let me know. First of all, the shooting experience. This is probably what drew me into film photography at the first place. I thought the slow down process was very appealing. People often talk about how you are forced to take it slow and think about your composition more, and you don't know what you get until the film being developed. So it's quite exciting to wait for the result. But according to my experience, I found that in some situations, these things are sometimes more like drawbacks than advantages. Now let's take candid photography for example. When I do it on film, I found the experience not quite good. It probably comes down to my shooting style. I'm into capturing interesting moments, and everything moves very fast, so I also need to act fast. And I heavily rely on my intuition, pressing the shutter as soon as I saw something that has photographic potential. But a lot of times I have to take a lot of terrible photos and miss a lot of shots before actually getting some good ones. But shooting this way on film can be impractical because every shot costs money. I often found myself in a dilemma as to whether I should take the photo or not, and ended up getting nothing because the moment was already gone. Maybe it's my problem, maybe I shouldn't think that much, but I haven't found a way to work it out yet. So I seldom shoot in this style on film for that very reason. Now I'm more into colors, patterns, or lights instead of decisive moments. Or I frame the scene first and then wait for the subject to enter frame because it's less risky. And still, I won't take as much photos as I should, and I'm less likely to experiment different things. So, the point is, if you take photos of non-living things, like landscape or architecture, then shooting film can be a good practice. But for those who that does like more subject-oriented candid photography, unless you have the budget to take a lot of photos, I think it will more or less hold you back a little in terms of creativity. Another thing about film is that you can't see the pictures immediately, so waiting for the results can be quite exciting. According to my experience, I do agree, and I also think that waiting lets me view my photos in a more objective way, because I have already forgot about what exactly did I took, so I won't have any misconceptions. But for beginners, this might be a drawback, because if you are still learning the basic technical aspects of photography, it's better if you can view your photos right away, analyze them, and learn from your mistakes. Now, speaking of learning, it leads me to my second point, which is the effectiveness of learning photography with film. When trying film photography, I did learn something along the way. I think the limitation of film has helped me learn to be a little more precise and focused, but it has also made me appreciate the freedom of digital photography more. I think there are definitely things to learn from shooting film, like how to pre-visualize a photograph, how to be concentrated and stay in the moment. But in the long run, I don't think it's beneficial to shoot film in terms of learning photography. When it comes to learning, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you are learning from them. But when shooting film, you have to literally pay for your mistakes. Not that it's a bad thing. Everything comes with a price, of course, but having to pay for every photos you take can potentially hold you back from improving, in my opinion. Look, if you won't take the shot unless it's exactly what you want, you aren't going to take as much photos, and you might miss some photos that actually has potential or lose some opportunity of discovering new things. But still, there are many things you can learn from shooting film, and it can be a great practice. So I think my advice will be just try it out for yourself and learn everything it has to offer. If at some point you feel like the limitations start to hold you back, you can always go back to digital and apply the things you learned. After all, I think nothing can really make you a better photographer but yourself. And if you are always willing to learn, you'll be fine. Every problem you face will just be learning opportunities, and you are only going to get better. Okay, I still have one last thing to talk about, which is film aesthetics. I think this is the biggest reason why people still shoot film, because it just look good. The color, the texture, the vibes. It's hard to emulate the color of film on digital shots, and people like to shit on digital photography for that very reason. But it doesn't mean that digital photos are terrible. I think it still has its advantages. The color of digital cameras are usually very neutral and true to life. It might not have the same kind of feel that film has, but thinking from another perspective, what it does is it gives you the full control over what you want your images to look like. And if you know the language of color, you can still get your digital photos to look very good through post-processing. And it's also easier to edit black and white on digital shots because it still has the color informations, so you can still make adjustments on each color. So it's like color filter through post-processing, and it's much easier. It's just that editing photo is a very exhausting job to do. So I don't know, it's your choice. Just choose whatever you prefer. But do keep in mind that look isn't everything. In fact, if that's the biggest element that makes up your photograph, then that photo must be pretty boring. Although there are some difference in the look of the photo or the workflow between film and digital photography, the most important thing is still what you are trying to tell through your photograph. And shooting film or shooting digital won't make that much of a difference. So once you chose what you are going to work with, the next thing is to keep learning and keep refining your skill and explore the world with your eyes. Okay, I think that's about it. Hope you learned something. If you find this video helpful, maybe consider liking or subscribing, please. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye Bye. Bye.